What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to be more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interests.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Do you want to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Morgan.
How are you today?
I mean, I'm good. I'm ready to talk about the positive, hopeful future aspects of the war on drugs.
Yes, part two.
Part 2. So last time we learned that the war on drugs is intentionally racist and very successful in disrupting Black communities and incarcerating Black and poor people, and that the way we fix it is through harm reduction. And part of the reason our approach of criminalization doesn't work is because it ignores supply and demand. If you know anything about behavioral economics, you know that there will always be a demand for drugs because people use drugs no matter the cost. And when it comes down to it, the war on drugs is just a war on people who sometimes get sad and want to have some fun or feel less sad and usually aren't really hurting anybody in the process. So the general public is exponentially worse off because of the war on drugs. And because it disproportionately affects communities of color, Black communities in particular, it is just fundamentally the wrong approach. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources, usually to worry about crimes in which no one's rights are being violated, which we talked a little bit about last week. Like growing marijuana or even selling drugs, there's no victim to call the police, you know? Like everybody consented to that.
There's like we don't test rape kits, but for some reason we will tear the world apart to find somebody's dime bag.
Yeah, and it's actually like a lot more harmful than a lot of people realize. I mean, yeah, but I don't know. Did you want to like talk about the opioid crisis at all?
Very frustrating. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Let's do that. So I got lost in the notes.
That's okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So like this is a good time, I think, to point out that the opioid crisis is a huge topic in public health circles and basically everywhere for anyone who's been paying attention over the last couple of years. But like, I think it's just a good example of like the first time that the nation in general, and when I say the nation in general, I mean like white people who make it the majority of the population in this country. But it's just like, oh my God, the opioid crisis is so sad. These pharmaceutical companies should have to pay millions and billions in settlements to the families because addiction to these opioids is a disease and it is big pharma's fault for doing this to people. Okay, the opioid epidemic is primarily also only a problem for white people. Like, it is disproportionately affecting white people. So, of course, now we've decided to fucking care about addiction as a disease specifically for the opioid crisis. Like,
yeah,
of course we should care about the opioid crisis, but, like, we should care about other addiction too. We shouldn't just pick this one because it's white people who are dying in rural bumfuck Indiana and shit. Like
Ohio.
Yeah. Ohio. Oh, we're sorry, Ohio. But like, and that's what just makes me so angry is that it's like, well, I'm glad that we care about this, but what about everyone else?
Yeah.
Like, that was their fault because that was all their decision. They decided to get addicted. Like,
they couldn't like see themselves in people who had problems with the crack epidemic because they were
and it's like, and especially even like with the whole like it's 4th of July just happened, so I'm all like, everybody's, we support our troops, stand for the flag, kneel for Jesus, merp merp merp. But also like, let's not do anything to help veterans who are homeless or are addicted to drugs or have PTSD that's unchecked.
Yeah.
Because they chose that themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We support our troops, I guess, just not the ones who have decided to cope with mental illness with drug use.
Yeah. Yep.
because they are also not given the health care that they need or access to mental health services. Like,
Nope. I know. You're right. It's infuriating. The other thing that, I don't know, is almost ironic is that if we'd approached the crack epidemic better, we'd have a legit framework to deal with the opioid crisis, but we didn't. And it's like we screwed up on the first part of a multi-part exam, and like now all the rest of our answers are going to be wrong because we screwed up like the first one.
yeah, that's such a good analogy for that. Like, it really
It's like our whole country. It's like, oh, your answer to question number 1 was white supremacy, and that was wrong. So good luck.
Yeah, it's like you're doing a crossword, and it's like, well, I got this one really long word wrong, and so now all the rest of them are going to be wrong
Yeah.
too. And oh, oops! Now a bunch of people are going to die. Sad.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, tots and pears.
So crime is a function of society around it, and we should be spending our time fighting predatory crime.
And eating the rich.
Sure, yes. So let's talk about what problems get solved by legalizing drugs, like what happened when they did it in other places. So violent crime goes down because disputes can be settled legally. No more artificially high prices because that also, and which, okay, sorry. No more artificially high prices because it's illegal and they can do it. Not that Big Pharma doesn't also do that, but reducing the prices by making it legal and reducing the prices also reduces petty crime because people with substance abuse disorders don't have to commit theft and whatnot just to pay for their habit. You also don't have to deal with drug dealers, which I don't think anybody really likes doing. You can tax that shit so you can get some revenue. You can regulate the quality of the substances so that there's less accidental overdoses. For example, heroin and fentanyl deaths skyrocketed after the government made legally made pain pills harder to get. But because they didn't provide support for anybody after they took that coping skill away. So as unhealthy as legally made pain pills are as a coping skill, you cannot take away somebody's coping mechanism without having another one to replace it. Hopefully a healthier one. Mine has been cinnamon raisin toast with butter, not heroin. Sorry, but a lot of times after people are thrown off their legally made pain pills, they turn to heroin or fentanyl, which is much, much stronger, and they end up ODing. So there's less accidental overdoses if you regulate or legalize and then can regulate. No longer wasting, this is like what I think about, no longer wasting resources on pursuit of people committing drug crimes. You can shift them to providing supportive services like housing, behavioral health treatment, etc. Finland just ended homelessness. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
They just straight up gave an apartment to everybody who needed it, and then like 4 out of 5 people went on to get full-time stable employment. It's like, who would have thought?
Yeah. It's shocking.
Shocking. And then what I wasn't thinking about, what I didn't realize or think about at all, is that the war on drugs really contributes to the erosion of privacy. Because
I definitely wouldn't have thought of that either.
yeah, but you have to do, like I said, there's no victim there. There's nobody to call the police. So they have to do unnecessary government surveillance in order to like catch any instances of this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they rely on surveillance and invasive enforcement, which honestly intrudes in our right to privacy. And because of this artificial importance that we've placed on drug offenses for decades, we've been talking about how it just is like leads to more crime, which is not true. Usually sorry, I guess I shouldn't generalize that. It depends, but the courts tend to allow more and more intrusive methods of surveillance because they've had it hammered into their head their whole lives too that drug offenses are there's so much importance placed on them. So police can legally look for marijuana on people's properties with low-flying planes. They can search homes for drugs based on anonymous or even non-existent informants, and they can search cars at will as long as they claim a dog signaled the presence of contraband. And those dogs aren't they're good dogs, sorry, but they're not very good at their jobs, like statistically. I think I remember that from Bloomington 101. And then also there's the war on drugs gives a lot of opportunity for police corruption, and civil asset forfeiture, which essentially gives the police the right to steal, allowing them to confiscate any money you have on you if arrested on drug charges, assuming that any and all money has to do with the drug sales. And that's like considered a win, but like it didn't change the supply because there's somebody else like ready to take back over for him or her right away, and it didn't decrease the demand. So it was just like a huge, a lot of surveillance, a lot of time, manpower, time dedicated to that, and then like in the grand scheme of things, like nothing was really changed. So who are the winners? I don't know. Generally not the public. It's like hypothetical people who are in theory not suffering from drug use, but it doesn't actually keep anybody from using drugs, and it doesn't provide the supports to get people off of it. So it's actually just very not effective. But
yeah, there are no winners except for the people who benefit from the system.
The prison industrial complex,
yeah,
basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. But there's a lot of losers. There's a heavy burdens on victims, drug users, suppliers, people caught in the crossfire of drug-related gang violence, people who value privacy, which should be everybody, and also people who like their tax dollars not being wasted, which should also be everybody.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about crack versus cocaine, because this is like a really perfect example of systemic racism and injustices. But crack and cocaine are the same thing, basically. Crack has way higher sentences. Crack has a shorter, more intense high, I think. But like, you make crack from cocaine. Like, people import cocaine into the United States and then it gets turned into crack. So it's cocaine mixed with baking soda, then you cook it and then you freeze it and then you sell it. It's low quality cocaine. The big difference is that cocaine is mostly used by white people and crack is mostly used in black communities. So crack used to have 100 times harsher mandatory minimums than cocaine. Today, it still has 18 times harsher mandatory minimums than cocaine.
That's insane that they even have mandatory minimums on non-violent drug offenses.
That's
what the
true.
fuck?
Yeah, that's also true.
And they categorize
they have
them
no
like
victims.
that. What the fuck?
Yeah. So it's a waste of time and money to worry about them. Instead, we need to be spending money on prevention and creating a community like Switzerland did, where they no longer feel the need to use drugs to dissociate from their lives. I want to get into the crime bill a little bit. Our prison populations did explode because of Bill Clinton's crime bill. They talked about super predators in it a lot. Not really a thing. But really, I mean, like, this is why we don't like corporate Democrats either. Like, they also have an interest in the status quo staying the way it is. So
yeah, I know. I think a lot of people. Yeah, I think a lot of people like think that it's just so binary, and so it's like, well, you either think that all of these problems are all the fault of Republicans, and you're just blue no matter who, Democrat, you know, with worshiping whatever, and it's like, no, like that's not what we're saying at all here.
We like nuance. We can parse right from wrong.
Yeah, like that's what we should all be, you know, looking at, because
we'll give it to you straight.
Yeah, it's like, let's also think about the fact that, like, who represents the country in government isn't necessarily actually representative of the country. It's just
Yeah.
representative of who got selected for those positions based on the options available, which are generally very white, relatively old,
Mm-hmm.
wealthy, and just fine with the way things have been.
Right. Because it worked for them.
Yeah, it's like that's
Yeah. So people with criminal records don't have access to government assistance, federal housing. They often don't have access to jobs.
often we don't let them vote.
Yes, and that is happening in Florida, I think, where they're arguing about something like 500,000 voters, which is more than enough to sway an election.
So many.
It's so many, yeah. And so if you live in Florida and you are, I don't know, arrested for a crime and you serve your time and you're let out, they're trying to argue whether or not you should be able to vote. And it's just crazy to me that they're like, in one state you could be able to do that, but in another state you can't. It's just everything's so arbitrary.
There's been a lot of that in Iowa right now too. That's been part of a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests here.
Yeah.
Is sign or resign, basically telling Kim Reynolds that if she's not going to sign this, to just quit, because she's not being a voice or a good representative of the people. She's not being a good leader. So
hold on, there's a train. Did you know I live this close to train tracks?
I did not know that. Can you hear my fireworks in the background because people are still doing this? Okay.
No.
Abby's very over it. She's just like, fuck these fireworks.
So Democrats really embraced the crime bill to try to win back racist swing voters, and it's pretty fucked up. I mean, again, you can tell what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do, and that was just like a calculated move to try to win, and we're not cool with shit like that. So Joe Biden is not innocent in that either. He used to, I think he was an author of the crime bill, and used to talk a lot about being tough on crime, which is really just another way of saying let's over-police communities of color, which is what happens a lot. So, not good. But let me tell you about Switzerland and Portugal, which are the two success stories. So
yes, I'm very excited to hear about this.
Yes. In 1980s, they had a heroin crisis. HIV rates skyrocketed and street crime became like a really big problem there. So they opened supervised use facilities, which is a version of harm reduction. Addicts are treated, supervised, given heroin of like high medical quality. They also had a place there to shower, to sleep. They had access to social workers and clean needles and medical supervision. And after that, there was a sharp drop in drug-related crime because it was legal and also free. So no need to go out and do petty crimes to pay for your drug addiction. What else? Heroin deaths went way down, crime went way down, HIV rates went way down, all because of harm reduction. And it's also less expensive. So they haven't had a single heroin death in Switzerland in the last 16 years on legal heroin.
Wow.
Like, more Americans have overdosed on heroin since you've been listening to this podcast than in Switzerland in the last 16 years. So,
wow.
I hear stuff like that and it's like, oh, we could have been doing this 16 years ago.
Like it makes me think this is like a meme we should make. It's like, this could be us, but you playing.
Yeah, for real. For real. And then Portugal in 2000 had one of like the worst drug problems in the world. 1% of their population was addicted to heroin. One out of every 100 people was addicted to heroin. So they tried criminalization. Didn't work. So the prime minister set up a panel of scientists and doctors, and they agreed in advance to do whatever that panel said.
Hold the phone. This is the most progressive thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
You're telling me that the leader of the country had like a task force for a big problem that was killing and harming people, and the task force was made up of scientists and doctors, so basically an experts on this issue. And they actually agreed to listen to them.
And they agreed before they even knew what they were going to say.
Mind blown.
Yes.
Whoever would have thought of that?
And it worked.
Whoa.
They basically said, they came back, the panel said, decriminalize all drugs, but take all the money that we spend on fucking people's lives up, like chasing them and arresting them and imprisoning them, and spend all of that money instead on turning their lives around. So they reconnected them to their community. They paid half the wages of people in Portugal with addiction problems. So like if you were a mechanic but you had addiction problems, they would go to a garage and say, we'll pay half of their salary for a year if you agree to employ this person. And it worked. So instead of creating barriers to getting jobs, they helped them get jobs. And it just sent a very clear message to the people of Portugal that we love you, we value you, we're on your side, we want you back. And it's amazing. And addiction was down by 50%, overdose deaths are down by 80%, and nobody in Portugal wants to go back to the way it was, not even like the major opponents from 20 years ago. Like the main guy who was against this has come out on the record and said everything that I thought was going to happen didn't happen, and everything that the other side said would happen did happen, and they're like really glad that they did it. So
we need to normalize that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, hey, look, I was wrong, they were right, this was good, and that's fine. I feel like so much of this is reflective of the coronavirus response too. Look at the countries where there is mutual trust between the government and her citizens.
Yep.
And look at their success rates compared to ours. They went through all their reopening phases already, and successfully. They had far fewer deaths, like per capita, and it just it was better. Even countries that didn't lock down still had that because they had that access. Man.
Yeah. Maybe someday that can be us. Maybe someday we'll get our shit together.
Someday.
People seem to be real upset.
They do. And like, honestly, sometimes I'm just so impressed by just like willingness to throw themselves in on the fight. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like millennials, we're doing pretty well too, but like for us, we still were born and grew up largely in this system of like hope, and like we looked upon the Emerald City, or we maybe thought we were living in the Emerald City, and everything was good and great, and Oz was real, and there was magic possible just as long, all you had to do was, you know, go to college and try real hard and stuff.
Yeah, right.
And so I feel like, you know, there's like that kind of still sits with so much of us, I think, and makes us maybe a little bit more tolerant. Whereas I feel like the younger generations, they were born into it. Like they were born intolerant to this bullshit. And so they're just like, all right.
Time's up.
Like, so, I mean, I think that it's just going to take a really long time, but, it makes me excited to see. And and I feel like also maybe some of that is too, because so many of like young millennials and so many Gen Zers, so many Zoomers, were raised maybe by Gen X. And maybe that's some of the difference too, because they were teenagers during those Reagan years. And some of them probably thought the war on drugs was great. And then some of them were probably like, holy shit, things are really bad now. And now also a bunch of people are dying from AIDS, and our president has
Wait, sorry. I'm having trouble hearing you, and there's a train. Sorry, hold on. I think there's another train.
Kitten.
Where's your brother? Oh, there he is. Why are there so many trains at 10:30 at night?
Yeah, that's weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like kind of just a tangent and a rant, but I don't know. I just feel like I feel super depressed a lot right now, but also I feel a lot of hope that like for every anti-vaxxer, there's an activist.
Yeah.
And, for every person who's just hateful of anything that's not the status quo, there's somebody out there with empathy and energy and just really like a passion to make this world, not just this country, but this world, a better place than the one they were born into.
Yeah.
And that makes me really happy.
Yeah. Well, the alternative is unthinkable. So,
yeah.
Onwards. I think for asshole of the week we just gotta go Richard Nixon. I mean, like the OG.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I was like, Richard Nixon's probably Trump's favorite president, but then I also remember him saying something like about Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, I mean,
I wonder...
both of them were real racist dudes.
Yeah, he definitely stands both of them.
Yeah, so it's like, well, you know what? Both of them were really racist. Trump probably likes them both.
I wonder if he could name 8 presidents.
He thinks Ben Franklin was president.
I would pay him to name his top 8 presidents. Or just to, like, tell me everything that he knows about chemistry. I would, like, die. Yes. So,
He would just be like, what a stupid question.
Yeah. But, man, it'd be good. I think it'd be fun to hear him try. All right, so what are our actions this week? One of my new favorite Instagram accounts is called So You Want to Talk About, and they even do have a like series of pictures about the war on drugs. I got some of our information from there, but they have a lot of really, really good, simple explainers for complicated topics, and there have already been several times when I've been in like kind of a hard convo and I've been like, man, I know this is wrong, but like I wanna, and gone to their page to find, facts that are like exactly what you need to make your argument, basically. So I like that page a lot.
Yeah, I love that. Also like check out like the ACLU's Campaign for Smart Justice. That's
What's
just
that?
one of, many campaigns out there that talk about how like it's more than just talking about things like criminal justice reform, but it's, ACLU really always does take kind of like that actual like broad evidence-based approach to, okay, well, if we actually want justice, like this is what we could do. And so that's something that's good to check out. I mean, really like checking out the ACLU and keeping up to date on what they're doing is always a great idea anyway. Because in general, they're just always really on top of every issue. Whether it's one that's like just really currently in the news a lot, or if it's one that's been a huge like human rights abuse for like 50 years, like the war on drugs.
Mm-hmm. I got my ACLU membership card like maybe a month or two ago, and my mom saw it sitting on the counter and she was so proud. So pro tip,
I love
that might make your parents proud if you leave your card laying around somewhere where they can find it. If you live in Illinois, you can already apply to vote by mail. The link is in our link tree. There's one form for if you live in the Chicagoland area, like Chicago and surrounding suburbs, and then there's another form if you live in the rest of Illinois. Do not use autofill on the form. It won't work. Just fill in every blank by yourself. And if you don't live in Illinois, Google it to see if you have vote by mail and if you can apply for it by now. But if you live in Illinois, do it.
Yeah, you can't yet in Iowa. You will have to in Iowa now apply to then receive an application to vote by mail.
I think
you have to
told me
register to
this.
vote and then apply to vote by mail, or apply for an application and then get the application. It's a mess. And
It's like they don't want you to vote.
that's exactly what it is. And we really, really, really need everybody to do it, because we really, 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 really need people to vote in Iowa. We got to be one of those states that helps flip the Senate. Also, Joni Ernst is becoming more and more embarrassing as time goes on. Teresa Greenfield, all the way.
Yeah. I saw somebody ask Joni Ernst, I think I sent it to you, about that when 2 people died in the United States from Ebola, she called on Obama to be to resign or something like that. And there's been like 130 some thousand corona deaths, and she's like, no, I think the president's really stepping up. It's like, why do you get to be in charge of anything at all?
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, she should not be. So
I mentioned that I joined the Chicago DSA. They have a link. You can probably just search it, but they have a CPAC webinar, which is Community Control of Chicago Police with the Chicago DSA. What?
I think you sent me something about that.
Probably. That is, I think, in our link tree already. And then, this is not exciting, but it's important. There is, in Illinois, on our ballots, there's going to be a question about Illinois Fair Tax Amendment. We have a completely flat tax rate. Like, billionaires don't pay, there's no graduated income tax, and there should be. So, but if there's a smarter person than me talking about it on July 14th, and you can sign up for that presentation in our link tree also. So it's an issue that affects literally every member of Illinois. It's not like a sexy, fun issue, but it would increase taxes on people that pay in the top 3% of earners in Illinois, which is people who pay $250,000 a year in taxes or higher. So the way it is right now, no matter how much you make, you pay the same amount. This would change that, which is better. Because J.B. Pritzker should probably be paying higher taxes than you.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
I had
fact.
no idea how much money that guy had until recently.
I know. It's
Holy
bananas.
crap. So much money.
Like $3.5 billion. I had no idea.
That is like unfathomable. I mean, like some days like $35 to me seems like a lot, and this guy's got $3.5 billion. I can't even.
Yep.
Another thing that, just like a reminder, if it is safe for you to do so, put your body out there, go to the protests, help out at local Black Lives Matter events. Black lives still matter, even if it's been X number of weeks since the last time it was trending on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
Wear your mask.
There are still daily protests. Like,
Yeah,
don't,
there are.
The
There are
news
daily
may
protests
has
everywhere.
kind of stopped covering it so much, but there have still been, there's protests everywhere.
Yep.
It's not
So,
going
like,
anywhere.
wear your mask. Wash your hands. Social distance if you can. And like, don't post photos or videos with people's faces in them on your social media. If you take the videos and stuff, okay, fine. Especially if you're afraid of agitators or police or, you know, other people like getting violent or something, but like careful about posting them on your social media. But yeah, like
Yeah.
keep putting your body out on the line, if you can, and if it's safe for you to do so.
Yeah.
It's very important that we really get the point across, especially by November, that like we're not backing down on Black Lives Mattering anytime soon. So
Got a lot of work to do.
mm-hmm.
This week, I chose to support Christine Morse, who is running for Michigan House. She's pretty great. We went to trivia for her last week.
Yeah, we did. They raised quite a bit of money, I think.
$2,700.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry. And then I've been spending my volunteer time writing postcards for Danny Brzezowski. So I haven't written any any vote forward letters in a while, so I've been plateaued at 480, but my group is like 40 letters short of 2,000. And our goal was 5,000, so we're doing pretty good.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
My volunteer time has been going to my colony of feral cats.
Yes.
I have successfully captured 2 kittens and got them to the local animal rescue. They should be young enough to be fostered and eventually adopted, which is great. One of them especially, I think, will be a real chill house cat for someone someday.
Nice.
Like, this is a cat born to a feral mother who's probably like 10 or 12 weeks old, and I was able to like cuddle him and play with him and stuff. So
that's very cool.
It was very exciting. I mean, I'm keeping at it, but it's complicated and kind of difficult, a little bit more than I was hoping it would be. I was like, I hope the cats will just decide that I'm their best friend and they'll all come to me. Not the case. Also with feral adults, you can't just like catch a feral cat and then bring it into the shelter. Nobody's happy with that. So yeah. So that's been fun and interesting. But lately, you know, with not really having social interactions with people that are like face to face or actually like happening in person, a lot of my social time is spent with these feral cats, and I have no complaints, frankly. Like, I'm like, hey, I'm still doing good for my community, even if my community is feline.
Minimize suffering, maximize happiness.
Yeah, I am all about that. So it's been a fun time.
Yeah.
Also, I want to keep all the cats, but I don't.
Yeah, you gotta exercise some self-control. You can do it.
It's probably really good for me.
Yeah. What about any like sparked joy? Any self-care? What do you got?
Well, I mean, I've just been watching lots of stuff. Some really fun. Lots of TV, you know, it's been hot. I don't want to go outside.
Nice.
Lots of TV, lots of fun stuff to watch. I binge watched the Netflix thing, The Floor is Lava. And honestly, it has motivated me to start lifting weights, which one I should do anyway, because it makes me feel strong and confident. But also because I think that we should go on the show, and I think we'd be really good. Like, you're a former swimmer. You can do the upper body strengthy stuff.
I know, that's what it seems like, but people always forget that my skin is so stupid.
Ooh, that's true.
So I did see like a little clip of it, and I was like, Morgan thinks we'd be good at this, and I would just be dragging the team down. So, I mean, I fully support you participating in the Floor is Lava. I would still love to do a relay triathlon someday when that exists again, where all I have to do is the swim part.
Oh my gosh, we can get our little FYMI pod jerseys.
Oh my goodness.
Adorable.
Everybody wear your masks so that we can do our relay triathlon.
Yeah.
Sooner.
And also, if you're a really good cyclist, hit us up, because I mean, I don't have a bike even, so I'm probably not doing that part.
Yeah,
Katie should definitely do the swimming.
Yeah, no, Morgan's going to do the running.
So yeah, if you bike.
But you better be on our level.
Yeah, message us.
Just kidding. We'll take it. We'll take anybody.
Yeah, we'll take anybody just as long as you're really good.
Right. Yeah. 'Cause we're not scrubs. We are winners. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I finally have permission to tell you guys a fun fact. Deva, whose husband is the guy that I donated my kidney to like 8 months ago, is pregnant with triplets.
Insane.
That happens naturally to 1 in 8,000 people.
Honestly, that's more common than I thought it would be. I have a coworker at my current job who has triplets.
Somebody in my Indivisible group has triplets.
I was just like, what? I didn't even know these were real.
Yeah. When I told her that, she was like, is she older? And I was like, she's in her like mid 30s. And she was like, it's a little bit more common like when you get older, which I didn't realize.
Huh. Interesting. That's so exciting.
I don't know. I feel really good about it because I know they wanted to have another kid, but then he started having obviously all those health problems and that wasn't really an option. So when she sent me a picture of her ultrasound, I was like, I had hoped that that they were going to have one more kid. And I was like, oh my gosh, congratulations. Like the kid that you wanted. And then she was like, look again. And I was like, oh, there's 3 little blobs. She's like, yeah, there's triplets. We're having 3.
Oh,
so they have 2 kids and they're about to have 5. So good luck with that.
That's crazy. I mean, my cousin had 2 kids, decided to try for one more, and had identical twin boys. And I mean, that in itself was just all of a sudden like, oh shit. We just wanted one more kid. Now we're getting 2. I cannot imagine 3. Oh my gosh. It's like, it's so exciting.
I can't imagine when they like start walking.
Oh, my best friend in college is a twin, and she has twin younger brothers as well.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to have to tell her now. She's going to be like over the moon. She just thinks multiple births are like the best thing ever. So
that's
obviously,
cute.
I mean, she's biased, but like she's allowed to be. So how exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, that's very exciting.
I love ending on that good of a note. Like, that's so happy.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is the war on drugs. Pretty fucked up. But I think it's an important just baseline understanding for people to have if you want to have context for how our current current police and justice system works.
Yeah. And I think that like if you learn about this and it like you feel angry that there are people that think that we should not be doing it this way, because like there's 2 sides of it. Some people hear us talk about the war on drugs this way and they're like, wow, I am mad that this exists and we need to dismantle it. And then other people hear it and they're like, wow, I'm mad at these 2 liberal bitches who are over here thinking that we should just let people get high all the time or whatever. It's like, okay, think about like where your own biases are for that anger though. And like, it's probably not coming from a place of love or compassion, or science, but
right.
like think about that and don't get all caught up in those angry feels about change being hard that you actually forget about the way that we could benefit humans. Like this country is humans. We are people. Like it's about a lot more than corporate systems or the prison industrial complex. Like that prison industrial complex is made up of people and they're the ones that are suffering. And I think that that's just a really important thing to remind people, especially if you decide, like we decide, to bring this up at, the family dinner table.
Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and a review. It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better.
And make sure you're following along on Instagram and Twitter at FYMI Pod.
Shout out to Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, Hope Dye for the podcast art, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.